Hello there cutters, and welcome to my new tutorial for the hard Mackerel in the class 3. In this video I'm going to talk about all the differences between the medium difficulty Mackerel and the hard difficulty, and how you can tackle them, and also I'm going to talk about a few advanced gameplay mechanics that the tutorial didn't tell you about. So first off, I want to start with some extra functionalities of the Grapple. But before we get into that, I would love if you drop my channel a subscription to keep you informed about all the Shipbreaker stuff you want. So if you go for this tether here, you can just press the right mouse button, and instead of moving the stuff towards you, if it's heavier than you, it's going to move you towards the thing. But keep in mind that you're moving really fast, and once your speed meter down there is in the red numbers, I guess it will damage you if you collide with the structures. So far I've managed to avoid that, but I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen. So next thing here is everything is the same with the Mackerel here. There's nothing too new here. We're just going to open the airlock, get in there. The depressurization process is always the same for all the Mackerel models. All the three difficulties, all the models. You just slip in, depressurize that thing, and that's just boom, everything you want to know. And the only thing, just I keep saying, is use the airlock afterwards to open that thing, because it's explosive inside there. So another thing the game didn't tell you about is you have hands. If you press the X button, you're going to try to grab hold of whatever is next to you. So that's just that. Boom. It's really useful if you're in those gecko ships where you're facing regular depressurization pressure problems, and you can just grab a hold if the room next to you decompresses rapidly. So it's really useful. Another thing about, while we're at things the game doesn't tell you, the data drives are worth 100 links tokens each when you decipher them, so keep that in mind, they're really useful. So there goes the generator room. New here is the generator is connected via a fuel pipe with the thruster. This is an explosive pipe, and there's also a computer terminal right in front there, and if you would activate that with a utility key, it would just pump out the fuel out of these pipes, and everything would be safe to salvage. But you can also do that without a key. For that you're going to use your stinger, and really important with that is that you have the upgrades for the max heat and the cooldown installed, because that really helps to melt down those walls. So let's get over there. You get some harsh words for that, but you shouldn't take those too seriously. It's a really viable strategy. So, with these walls out of the picture, we're having free access to the fuel tanks. We're going to use those valves here, and that's going to flush the fuel out of the pipes, because that's really what you want to do. There we go, boom. So now these pipes are not as dangerous anymore, but if you would pull this lever here, you would risk a explosion of this pipe. So next step I usually take is grab out the split saw and do a little cut here. It's another thing I want to talk about. As a matter of fact, ironically, the split saw is most of the time a way quicker and easier tool to get rid of cut points than the stinger. The stinger is, as a matter of fact, my go-to tool if I want to go for precise cuts. But if I want to do really quick cuts on the on these points, I really like to use the split saw, and I really want to promote that. So now we are almost able to salvage the generator, but there's still the pipe here in the way. If you pick the pipe, it's locked, you can't take that. So we're going to take the stinger, and it's really important that you do use the stinger, you can just laser away the pipe. If you use the split saw, the last time I used the split saw on this pipe, everything exploded, even though I flushed out the fuel beforehand. So I can only emphasize it, use the stinger to burn away those fuel pipes. The split saw will make those explode. So, and that's how you salvage the generator in the hard difficulty if you don't have the utility key. I wanted to demonstrate that for once. So the next difference between the between medium and hard are a few new work orders on your table. There's furniture new, which is basically all those seats and stuff like that. Storage is new. That's all these storage boxes here like these. And oh, there's data drive. Let's pick that up. And also there's new on the table fuel and coolant. You will find fuel and coolant here in the side panel crawl spaces. The fuel is right here. But the coolant is living, what, that's the wrong side. I'm looking at the air. So here, there's a barrel of coolant on each side of the ship, so you can take the coolant here. But it's pretty tricky to get that out here, if you're seeing all the confined space we're sitting in right now. So we're going to this, to get to the coolant, I really like to do the following. So first off, I'm going to get over here, and I'm using the split saw, and we can do doubles here. So I'm going to laser off the whole outer part of the hull here. I'm going to demonstrate how. So as you see here, the split saw does really good work of these doubles. But as soon as you get closer to the coolant tanks, I'd strongly advise you to get back to the stinger, because the coolant tanks are very, very susceptible to stray fire, and they explode pretty quickly in a thermic or a freezing explosion. Can I say that? And it'll make everything brittle around you, and it's pretty dangerous. So now we have removed all the cut points here. Oh, and I'm getting blocked by the coolant cell. But we're just not right there yet to dislodge everything. But first, let me grab a little bit of oxygen here. So there we go. So we're going to use the grapple here. Oh no, give me back my tethers. So it's one thing which is really annoying here. Boom. That the right mouse button you use to reel yourself in also is the button to use the tethers, but well, this tutorial is made in version 0.0. 0.1, so well, might be some changes in the future on that. So let's grapple ourselves right back there. So you can save so much time with that. As you see, if you would just glide over there without the grapple, it would take a lot longer. Okay, so let's get back there. First off, yeah, there we were. So now everything is still locked in place here. Nothing has dislodged, and that's because of these nacelles here and their connection with the fuel pipes. So next off, we're going to dislodge the nacelles. So there we go. And now we still can't touch those nacelles. That's because they're still connected with these fuel pipes. And again, use the stinger on the fuel pipes. It's very important. I don't know if these would explode as well, but let's better take no risks. And there we go. Now they're loose. We can now push them out. Let's do the other one as well. And as you see now, all these parts start drifting apart. And that's where the fun begins, because we're now able to access freely all these dangerous parts. Like you see, all this stuff now comes apart. All the outer crawl space is now loose. And with that, you can safely just float over there and grab yourself the the fuel tank. Boom, and just like that. And you can proceed with the coolant, and just like all these things are easily dispatched like that, and you don't take any unnecessary risk. And if you want to sort things a little bit, you have a few friends over here which don't get introduced to you. Where are they? Friends? My orientation sometimes is really bad here. Ah, there are the jaxes. Here. These jaxes here are your tools to sort things away. Well, right now we're sadly on the wrong side, so you could also use your hab for that. So basically what I want to show you is, if there are certain parts of the ship that you want to separate from the whole mess, you can tether them just like over here, and then you can gain some space around your main area. And let's just take that thing here, and you might tether it over here, and this way you can sort your way free for things like the coolant tank, but feel also free to just toss these things right away into the processor if you want to. It's just up to you. The jaxes are really not necessary tools on the Mackerel. The Mackerel is just such a compact model of a ship that most of the time we really don't need them. So we see here the we can here grab the power cell. Boom. And you see, with this kind of disassembling, we're safely able to reach the coolant and the fuel we need. So of course the same thing here works on the other side as well. But there's one thing that I want to point out. On the other side you have the airlock in the way between the crawl space. So if you look in here, let's gravitate over here. This is the wall to the airlock compartment. So accessing the crawl space on this side would be quite easy if you would go like, let's say, for this wall. I really like to dissolve these walls entirely to get into the crawl spaces on the sides of the Mackerel, because I really experimented with a lot of different ways of getting in there, but this was, well, the most reliable. So this side is a little bit more complicated, because you have to get into the outer side of the hull at two parts. Like on this side you have to go, and on the rear thruster side there are also cut points here. So you have to loosen the cut points in front of the airlock compartment and behind the airlock compartment. So the other side of this thing is a little bit more tricky. But if you just cut loose these cut points here, and then cut loose the nacelle at the end, boom, you're just fine. And that's pretty much it. There's not much more to that. You'll find your storage and furniture needs always in the cockpit. The mechanical and electrical parts are all spread across the ship in form of the atmosphere regulator, the airlock consoles, power junction boxes, just stuff like that. I think you can figure yourself out at this point. I think everything necessary was shown in this video. So I'm going to float over to my hab and talk about the last few things before I cross out this video, because I certainly don't want to spoil all the fun of disassembling those Mackerels for you. I think everything got explained here. And also my work order here is a horrible one. I did a really chaotic job here, mainly to show you guys what we can do here and how to tackle these difficulties. Personally, I would say for the Class 3 hard Mackerel, set yourself up at least 2 shifts and set yourself some real goals, like go for 2 sections, like go for the rear section with the generator and the thruster elements, and for the middle section at the same day, or like for the outer panels like I did here, those 2 things at the same day, and do the other things at the other day. Like today I would go for the outer panels and the other day would go for the middle section of the cockpit, and then you should be fine to go. What I want to emphasize here is if you go for some specialized sections of the ship, you're going to work more efficient on the Mackerel. But since the ship is pretty small, there's a lot of freedom how you can do that, and I guess, well, I hope I explained everything that was left open questionable. So feel free to drop me a comment if I forgot something. If you want to add something, I would appreciate. I will continue with a tutorial video on the Gecko as soon as I can. So hope you guys will check on that as well, and until then, have a nice day. Bye bye.